All right. No Filter MMA family. This is your boy BJ back. And of course, I told y'all yesterday on the live stream that I was bringing y'all a very special guest. And he is former LFA lightweight champion and top prospect at 155 pounds in the UFC, Mr. Austin Thud Hubbard. Don't forget the name. How you doing, man?
Good, dude. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. So first, man, let's just talk, bro. Like, how was quarantine? Like, I've been asking fighters interviews that I've been doing. Like, how was quarantine? Like, how did you get through all of that?
I was pretty fortunate enough. The quarantine really wasn't too different as far as like my. It didn't really. If anything, it sort of kind of helped my life, a little bit with UFC being the one sports organization that was up and running. There was, I could have fought as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I got 3 in last year. I was really ideally shooting for 4, but then I had an injury that kind of set me back a few months. And now I'm back at it, with my first fight in April is a little longer than I wanted it to be, to get back. I think it's been 8 or 9 months since my last fight. But some setbacks, some injuries, and having to take a little extra time off. I made the best of that time off, and I'm back and ready to go now.
I mean, dude, you came in hot. You in a war with Davi Ramos, man. I mean, I was like, when you made the transition to the UFC and they were like, okay, he's fighting Davi Ramos, I was like, man, they threw Austin Hubbard to the wolves, man. Like, they threw you to the wolves. But dude, you went right in there. You were in that fight like the entire time. Like, walk us through that first initial UFC fight. Like, how were the nerves and everything with that?
Yeah, it was cool, man. The biggest thing I remember from my debut is when I was walking out, and then you kind of get out of the tunnel and you see the crowd. I could not help myself but to smile.
Yeah,
it was like a really cool, surreal moment. You work so long to get to the UFC, and then when you finally get there and you're making that walk, and it's just really cool, man. It's something I'll never forget. And the fight itself. Honestly, I didn't feel too nervous, believe it or not. I knew it was gonna be a hard fight, but I believe in my abilities and my training, and went out there and did the best I could. I fell a little short of winning the fight, but it gave me some valuable experience and definitely lesson learned. So to grow off of.
Yeah. I mean, it was a tough fight, man, but it was good. You showed a very well-rounded skill set. You know what I'm saying? And I thought that itself spoke a lot for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, when these guys come in and when they get the contract that says Austin Hubbard, they better be prepared to go everywhere, man, because, I mean, very well-rounded skill set. Before we get to your skill set, I want to talk about the gold that you held at LFA, man. How did it feel to get that belt wrapped around your waist, man, at such a young age?
Yeah, it was really cool. Obviously, LFA being like the premier regional type of scene goal that you can accomplish. It's if you win that, you're at the top of the regional scene. So yeah, it was very cool. You know what I mean? In who I fought and had to win to get it, it wasn't by any means a gimme type of fight. I came in there major underdog. And I think most people was expecting Achilles to win that fight pretty easily, and I had a rough first round, but from there on out, I dominated that entire fight, and ended up finishing him in the 5th, and it was probably one of my favorite fights and experiences so far. Obviously being the UFC is really cool, but that was a cool moment in my career for sure.
Well, I mean, what stands out is you conquered LFA, you know what I'm saying? So obviously your goal is to conquer in the UFC and get that UFC belt wrapped around your waist, man. You know what I'm saying? So how do you feel you stack up, man, to the rest of these guys in the division? There's a lot of specialists at 150 pounds, and you bring that very well-rounded skill set, man. I mean, how do you feel you stack up?
Yeah, skill for skill, I do believe I'm there. I fully believe in my abilities and my skill sets, that I can definitely be, top of the division. Each fight in, 6 now in the UFC is a great learning experience, and each experience that I get, whether it be win or lose, I learn a lot, grow a lot from that experience, and then come back even stronger my next fight. So, I try not to get too far ahead of myself. I
Yeah,
want, one fight at a time, and give my best effort each one of those fights, and that's all I can control and all I can do, and then just keep stringing wins together, and climb the ranks.
yeah, yeah. I want to talk about your skill set. I did mention that. We know you train with Curtis. You know, you have that relationship with Curtis
Yeah,
Blades. That's for a young fighter. That is a great person to have in the gym with you. Somebody like Curtis Blades. I
yeah,
mean,
for sure.
championship level shit there. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So, um, where did you start as far as martial arts? Like, where did it start? Because I can't tell where
Uh,
it started because you do everything so well. You know?
yeah. So I grew up wrestling, and then like throughout high school, I wrestled year round. I played football, and then even growing up, I did about every sport there was, but nothing as far as a martial art besides wrestling. It wasn't until I was about 20 years old when I picked up MMA, and started training MMA, and kind of, here I am 9 years in now, and just keep grinding. I feel like I fell in love the first day I started to, going to practice, and I haven't stopped since. And it's been a fun journey for sure.
But the hands have. For you to say you started off wrestling, man, the hands have come so far. I mean, dude, like, I'm gonna say this. You know what I'm saying? When I'm watching you fight, you know, your last fight, as you know, against Dakota Bush, we were watching, and one of my friends was there. He was like, "Are you kind of getting like a Rory McDonald vibe from this guy? Like long straight punches. You fight behind a jab. You know what I'm saying? Clinch work is good, but it's the at range where you really excel at, man. And it's hard for a lot of those people that come from a ground fighting background to develop those hands like that, man. But
Yeah.
I mean, straight punches down the middle, fight behind a jab, man. I mean, talk about how where did all that come from?
Yeah, so I have to give a lot of credit to my striking coach, Vinny Lopez, and
Yes.
obviously the other coaches at Elevation Fight Team. They all helped me out tremendously. But Vinny being my striking coach, he's who I primarily work with and do all my striking with and everything. So yeah, shout out to Vinny.
Yeah.
But yeah, ever since I started, doing MMA, the stand-up aspect was always really fun to me. And when I started, obviously it was my weak point. And so I love doing stand-up. I grappled for so long. I want to do something new. I love this standing stuff. So I really took to that, and I don't mind standing in my fights at all. To me, it's just as fun, if not more fun. I try to make sure I'm staying well rounded and keep them guessing everything. So obviously, grappling occurs and is a must, at times. But yeah, I'm not afraid to stand and bang. That's for sure.
In this division, man, like you're in like a Shark Tank. I mean, I'm just gonna be real with you, Austin. Like, 150, like you're floating outside of the top 15. You know what I'm saying? Like you win one important fight and you're in the top 15. You're in the real Shark Tank. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You have to be well-rounded at 155 pounds, man, because I mean, you got Dustin Poirier at the top. You got people like Charles Oliveira. You got people like, I mean, I don't even want to talk about Bellator, dude. I don't even want to say his name. I don't want to give him attention. But how do you feel, man, coming from LFA? And I mentioned this in the podcast, about how much hype that Chandler's getting. Oh, I said his name. Chandler's getting so much hype that Chandler's getting from being a Bellator champion. I'm like, well, there's a bunch of different champions from different organizations that have come into the UFC and they don't get this type of hype. How did you feel seeing that? I know you felt some type of way about that.
You know, I'm on the fence about it. You know what I mean? Like, I like seeing people succeed. I like, you know, I'm sure has worked very hard to get to that point. So, the fact that he's getting a title fight after a second UFC fight, you know, that says a lot to his hard work. So who am I to hate on that? You know what I mean? You know, he's had a long, successful Bellator career as well, which is where, you know, this backing is coming from. And then, you know, he came in and he did put on a show that Hooker fight
Yeah.
and put him out. So, you know, there's that title shot. But as you heard, everyone's heard, he turned that down to fight McGregor. And, you know, that's his decision. So, you know, next guy in line to get the spot was Chandler. So, you know, I feel he was in the right place at the right time. You know what I mean? If, let's say, the Poirier and McGregor 3 fight wasn't on the table, there's no doubt in my mind it would be Oliveira and Dustin. So, you know, he's in the right place at the right time. So it is what it is.
Yeah. It kind of ticked me off a little bit, man, because I was following your career when you came into the UFC, and I was like, man, Austin Hubbard, man. I mean, he came in, man, and he has to start from the bottom and work his way up versus other champions from other organizations.
Yeah.
They come in with so much momentum. You know what I'm saying? I thought it was kind of unfair to you to begin with, but it is what it is with that.
Yeah.
Tell us what it's like to work beside Curtis Blades, man. Curtis is a character. You know, I'm his friend on social media as well. I interact with him on social media. Curtis is a character. What is it like working with Curtis Blades?
Yeah, dude, he's awesome. We lived together. We were roommates for I think 3-4 years. We're still obviously very good friends. He's gonna be he's gonna groomsman in my wedding even. So yeah, he's a character like you said. He's a really laid back, easygoing type of person. You know, we get along great, and yeah, he's a fun dude. You know.
So how does it feel having Curtis Blades on top of you? Like, I know y'all have wrestled. Like, I know,
you know,
man, I'm telling you.
We mess with him a lot, you know, saying he has chicken legs and stuff, and kind of poking at him, but he's a big teddy bear. He takes it well. I experienced a serious Curtis, so I'm gonna avoid that because I know, you know, I sit cage side with him in his corner most of his fights, so I seen firsthand what that man can do, and he's a dangerous guy.
He's a dangerous guy. Oh, for sure, man, for sure.
Yeah.
So probably the most controversial fight that you've had in the UFC so far was the Max Roshkoff fight.
Yeah.
Austin, you broke him down. I mean, he came in with I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm honest with fighters. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Jillian Robertson, I'm honest with Jillian. There's been many situations in the flyweight division where Jillian Robertson was fed to people you know, as a stepping stone, and she finishes them. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of felt like with Max Roshkoff that I'm like when I heard that he was fighting you, I'm like, okay. They're trying to feed Austin Hubbard to him, get a big win over a former LFA champion. That speaks numbers for this guy. I mean, that's all they talked about during fight week was Max Roshkoff. And you went in there and you systematically broke this dude down. The fight IQ that you used in this fight, man, it was so amazing. Like you knew that you knew you had him beat. You know, with the strikes. You know what I'm saying? Like you were breaking this guy down. His cardio couldn't match your cardio. His pace couldn't match your pace. His skill couldn't match your skill, man. Like at what point in that fight? Well, first of all, how did it feel coming into that fight, knowing how everybody was talking about him? And at what point in that fight did you realize I got this shit? Like this dude's done.
Yeah. So you know that fight in particular, I felt I came in very mentally focused and clear. You know what I mean? Like that was the first fight of a new contract. So number one, I wanted to prove a point that, you know, I earned this new contract. I'm not going to let you guys down the UFC. And, you know, especially against this new guy coming in I was the underdog. So that was another thing that pissed me off. I'm like, all right, y'all, I'm about to show you right here. Just I feel like maybe I do a tad better when I feel I have something to prove, and I did, obviously in that fight with those two things I mentioned earlier, and I just had a good fight. I was on. I was did everything I needed to do, and yeah, I feel like that was one of my more complete, performances. And he was a
Yeah,
very, for people who aren't, as familiar with him, just look up some of his jiu-jitsu matches and things like that. He was a very high, talented newcomer to the UFC, and so I mean, I see where the underdog thing came in, but still it pissed me off, and I had something to prove.
but man, I mean, and you took it. That fight, if I'm not mistaken, that fight went to the ground a couple of times, did it not?
Yeah, he took me down, I think once, and I scrambled up right away, and then he did an Imanari roll, sorry, for the second time or whatever, and yeah, I had to defend, the ankle attacks, the leg attacks, and then I ended up scrambling back up again. And it was really in that point, when because I believe the Eminari roll was at the beginning of the second round.
Yep.
I felt like that was his last ditch effort, and I was confident and I had it, after first round, but definitely going into the second, I knew it was gonna be my fight. You know what I mean? I just had to stay smart, stay active, and keep pouring it on him. But I knew I was gonna win. And after I defended those leg attacks, because I mean there's some slick attacks, and I made it back to the feet and started piecing them up again, and got back to work, and I knew it was over. I honestly I didn't even realize he quit. You know that after the second round, I thought the ref stopped it. For whatever reason. Honestly, I wasn't really sure what
Yeah.
was going on. It wasn't until like the interviews after the fight when I was realized he actually decided to not come back out. So, like I said, at the time, I thought the ref stopped it for whatever reason, just because. Well, I mean, round number two was pretty dominant. I
Yeah.
wasn't really sure. I knew I was pouring it on his ass, but I thought the ref stopped it for whatever reason. Like I said, I didn't necessarily know. He just didn't want to come out and said no until after the fact. But yeah,
And everybody talked about, what I'm saying, oh, this guy, he quit, this and that. It was you who made him quit. And I'm like,
yeah,
and dude, I got on the podcast and I said, what? Why are we not talking about Austin Hubbard making this guy quit? Like Austin Hubbard
yeah.
beat this guy's ass. He beat this guy's ass to make this guy quit. Like, I mean, it was this dude. When they called that fight, dude, I jumped up off the couch, bro, and I went crazy. I was like, he fucking made this dude quit, man. I mean, so I mean, how did that feel? I know you don't want to, read into it too much because that's not something that happens all the time. But how did that feel right away when you first learned that he told the ref that he didn't want, and he tried to do it slick. If you go back and watch the footage, like he tried to do it real slick too.
Yeah.
Like he didn't want your corner to see that he was saying like, I don't want to go back out there. Like he was trying to do it real cool. How did you feel, man?
That is a cool feeling, to know that you just completely break someone to the point where they're refusing to come out to that third round. You know what I mean? Uh, it's at the end of the day though, that's his decision. He has to live with that, and it's definitely not something like I would ever even consider.
Right.
Would enter my mind. So you gotta do what's best for you, and he thought that was best for him at that moment, and it's the way it went. I respect, still respect him as a fighter, and I hope he comes back, or whatever he decides to do, and I know a lot of people are hating on him pretty hard, but man, this is a hard life this is a hard way to make a living, and I definitely respect anyone who's trying to do that. So, yeah.
So I can't remember exactly which fight that was. That you was that the Krepelik fight after that you suffered that injury on the
Yeah.
leg? Like, for one, how do you get that? And for two, when did you notice? Because you won the fight.
Yeah.
When did you notice that something wasn't right?
So, it really kind of blows my mind that even happened. For one, because
It was gnarly.
I didn't get kicked that much. It's not like I ate 10 plus leg kicks that fight. Honestly, I feel like he landed a solid like 7 to 9 range, give or take. And uh, he did do a really, really good job of because he was southpaw and I'm a ready or regular, obviously. And I was throwing my push kick and it was the distance because he was southpaw was throwing me off a little, and I was landing forward. And he did a really good job capitalizing with a hard kick the second my foot, was hitting the ground.
Yeah.
So I think because my leg was kind of flexed in that second, and I don't know if it made it worse or what, but I ate however many it was, and after the fight, I was walking out and everything fine, and it just slowly kept getting more and more swollen and more painful. And by the end of the night, me and Curtis actually ended up walking back to the hotel from the arena. Um, I set my leg up and I started icing it and just watched the rest of the fights in the lobby because I was like the first or second fight of the night, I believe, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were gonna go out and celebrate and whatnot. And by the end of the card, I was like, man, my leg hurts a lot. Like I was taking ibuprofen, nothing helped. And by this point, it was like rock hard, swollen,
Yeah.
like it was big. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just gonna go up to my room after and just relax and keep icing it and keep it elevated. And my coaches were helping me to the room. I got on the elevator and we started going up, and I passed out. And luckily, it's a very good thing I did pass out because obviously at that point they rushed me to the hospital. And then we after further, looking at my leg and everything, they decided they needed to open it up and let all the pressure out and stuff. By the time I got to the hospital and like by the time they opened it up, the muscle was already completely non-responsive and turning gray. So if I would have made it to my room and fallen asleep, I definitely wouldn't have my leg today, and I definitely wouldn't be fighting. So it was a pretty crazy situation, but luckily I made it out. And honestly, from my last surgery to my first practice, it only took me 3 months to recover. So, it really wasn't that bad looking back on it.
Yeah. Ooh. Man, that's crazy. That's crazy that it can start in your leg and make you
Yeah. Yeah,
man.
it was pretty nuts.
I remember seeing the pictures you posted, and your leg was like filleted open, like
Yeah,
a steak, bro.
Yeah, it's huge.
So was the muscle like dying or?
Yeah, so because of all the swelling and everything, it was cutting off the circulation and oxygen to my leg. So that's when the muscle dies, when it can't get any circulation or anything through it. I ended up having 3 surgeries. I was in Canada for all week, the whole week after, and yeah, it was crazy. They just had this wound vac thing on my leg, and it was like sucking out all the blood and inflammation. It goes from my knee to my hip is like how long the scar is. And yeah, it was pretty nuts.
So now, how you feeling coming off of this last fight with Dakota Bush, man? That was a great performance.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're feeling pretty confident, man. But going forward with that win in your pocket, man. I mean, you had a couple of losses in there, as far as the UFC, but you came back with a dominant win. How do you feel going forward?
Yeah, so I feel really, really good. from that Joe Selecki fight, you know, he got me in the first round with that rear naked, and he's been doing really well, and I'm happy for him for that. But you know, I went into that fight not as mentally where I needed to be, and because I lost that fight, it taught me a great lesson. I actually started working with a mental coach on a weekly basis and doing a bunch of different type of you know, mental training and mental like exercises or whatever, you know, through him, and was reading or listening to a lot of different mental training type of books or breathing books and things along those lines. And you know, that helped me greatly going into this Dakota bush fight. I had quite a few setbacks from that. I felt like from the start of that loss with Joe Selecki, and then all the way up until the fight ended and I won. You know, it was a rough couple 8-9 months. You know, injuries, surgeries, death of a loved one. You know, just a bunch of different things. You know, challenging me, and you know, with the mental training that I was doing, and you know, it helped me get through it, and you know, uh, definitely made me a more well-rounded fighter. You know, I skill wise, like I said before, I feel skill for skill, I can compete anywhere. But now I have, you know, the mental mind to match the skills. You know, to make sure I'm showing up how I need to show up every fight night, and not looking past, you know, fight night or anything like that, and just
Yeah.
keeping me grounded and you know, all that good stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of good matchups for you at 155 pounds, man. I do. I feel like
Yeah.
there's a lot of fights that you can win just based on your cardio, your style, your pace, you know, your pressure. You know, very pressure heavy fighter. Like I said, you come forward, you throw really nice shots coming forward, straight shots down the pipe, man. Your accuracy is really good. Like I looked up your stats, it's really really good, man. My dream fight, like not dream fight, but a fight that I would really love to see at 155 pounds, and it's just because you guys are like very similar on the feet. I would like to see you versus Dan Hooker. I think that'd be a great fight to make. Like you versus Dan Hooker, I'd watch it all day long, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very accomplished fighter. I'd love that challenge. You know what I mean? I just gotta keep putting these wins together, and hopefully that'll happen here soon.
So I don't know if you have a fight in negotiation or whatnot, but whoever your next fight is, what can your next opponent expect from Austin Thud Hubbard for sure?
You know, just a constant evolution. You know, I'm trying to bring something new to the table every fight, and you know, just keep growing. I want to be, you know, I'm always in their face and keep a high pressure, but I want to take that up another level. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You know, really start pushing a little harder. You know, pouring it on, making sure you start getting more finishes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I'm there with you, man. Of course, No Filter MMA is always in your corner, bro.
Yeah.
But we're gonna go ahead and shut this thing down, man. I ain't gonna keep you on here all day. I know this. You know, you
All
said
right.
you got a vacation coming up. You got things to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give the floor to you, man. Like you give a shout out to whoever you want to give a shout out to, and I really appreciate you coming on today, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Shout out, you know, all my coaches.
Your dog wanted to shout out.
Yeah. Hey. You can find my Instagram at Austin Hub with 2 B's 155. That's my Instagram and Twitter. I have a fight page on Facebook, just Austin Thud Hubbard. If you want to follow that along, you can find most of my stuff on Instagram though.
Yes. And one last thing before we go, man. Who you got winning that title?
You see, this is a hard one for me to pick. I'm not the most familiar with Chandler's fights. Is that the Tao fight I assume you're referring to? Yeah. Okay. Sorry you cut out a little bit. But Oliveira is very well rounded. He's very skilled, but I feel like he's shown to have a little bit of trouble in the past when it comes to people pressuring him, and kind of letting that pressure get the best of him. And I know Micah Chandler is going to bring a lot of pressure and a lot of big bombs his way, and he's a very high level, wrestler and grappler. With a lot of power shots, so it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, man. Well, they better keep that belt warm because Austin Thud Hubbard gonna make his motherfucking way all the way up through that division and knock somebody the fuck out. I know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, guys. Well, there you have it. Austin Thud Hubbard finally makes his long-awaited debut on No Filter MMA. Man, I appreciate you coming through. Enjoy your vacation. You've deserved it, man. I'm looking forward to your next fight. And that's all I got for you, man. Thank you for coming through today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
All right, peace out, man.
Yeah, take care. See you.